Afreximbank TV.
All right, this is Afreximbank Television, and it's our final interview for the 3 days of the annual meetings of the Afreximbank, and I'm so excited because this one is going to be super, super awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, already we have in studio, and this is going to be a challenge. So I want to challenge myself to get your last name correct.
Well, don't tell yourself it's going to be a challenge. Tell yourself it's going to be easy breezy.
There you go.
Yeah.
So this one is going to be easy.
There we go.
Folake Olowofoyeku.
Close, very close. Folake Olowofoyeku.
Folake
Olowofoyeku.
Olowofoyeku.
Yeah. There we go.
Olowofoyeku.
Yeah.
Olowofoyeku.
Yeah.
This was a lesson. I hope it was a lesson for you too. But it's a beautiful name, and thank you so much. And you are absolutely gorgeous. I love this entire get-up.
Thank you. This is by a Nigerian designer, an African designer based in LA, Katula.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Nice, nice. I love it.
Thank you.
I mean, and the whole, before I get into the actual interview questions, welcome to the Caribbean and the Bahamas. You were just telling me that you didn't realize it was so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories, but it's one thing to hear it and it's a different thing to see it. And I love the climate here. I've especially been craving Nigerian climate, the hot and the humid, and feeling it here, embedded in beautiful, beautiful nature, and the beaches has been beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. For those of you, because I failed to acknowledge this, for those of you who might not know, although I doubt that there is anyone who doesn't, Folake is a Nigerian. Can I place you in Nigeria, or you're like Nigerian American?
Definitely place me in Nigeria.
Nigerian actress.
Definitely. America's been great, very great to me, but Nigeria's home as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actress. Played multiple roles, but known most recently for her role as Abishola in Bob Hart's Abishola.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about some upcoming projects that she's allowed to speak about.
Yeah.
But we're super excited to have her. And as we mentioned earlier in the previous interviews, the whole idea of a Global Africa initiative is just much bigger than trade and investment, and it includes the creatives and so many other aspects of what Africa has to offer the world, really. And Africa, as you have come to realize, is a place filled with tremendous talent. So tell me a little bit about how you see the work you do supporting this whole idea of a global Africa.
The work I do supporting a global Africa. First of all, I want to point out the fact that I think that this initiative for a global Africa is very timely, it's much needed, and it brings me so much joy to know that this is happening, because for me specifically, I had to leave home to pursue my dreams as an artist, but I would rather have stayed put with my family, with my friends, watch my parents grow old and die. So there's a cost for the success that I've had, but I'm glad to know that a change is being worked on with this global initiative, a Global Africa. The work I do, how can the work I do support? Well, I have a platform now in America. I've gained a lot of success and renown, and I've been opportune to have access to get in through doors many people like me haven't been through. And what that means is I can bridge a gap now. I can look to my people and say, hey, these are the resources we have here. These are the resources I have. What are you trying to create? How can I also give you a platform? Because at the end of the day, it's about giving back and enriching ourselves and our culture. I'm not doing this just for me. It cost me a lot, and so the benefit has to supersede me. It has to benefit us as a whole, as a community.
And that's the whole idea of what we're trying to create here. And I think it's beautiful when you talk about Nigeria being home and that not differentiating, or there not being a differentiator in how you're identified as Nigeria. I find that especially this particular show that we mentioned, Bob Hart's Abishola, is you get to bring that to a screen of people, and the African culture, I think, is gaining in kind of popularity, and a lot of people are gravitating to it. So I think it's incredibly beautiful that you're able to do that.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have this position. It's an important one and a valuable one, and I, with the support of the bank and in collaboration with other people who are as invested in African culture and African people, my goal is to collaborate and continue to bridge the gap any way that I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that, because a lot of the discussions, we've had a panel talking about certain types of roles that people of African descent are made to play that are like very stereotypical in nature, and even in this, how do you kind of maneuver that and ensure that while you are doing those roles, you're staying true to just the beauty that we are as a people that's much, much bigger and much more diverse than those particular roles that we're forced into playing? Yeah,
you know, as a child growing up in Nigeria, I remember watching content that I found offensive because I was surrounded by intelligent, strong, beautiful men and women, and I never saw that depicted accurately on the big screen. And as much as I loved watching films and TV, when I moved to America and I would watch a magnificent, epic production, I would feel a lot of sadness because I didn't see anybody that looked like me. And so I got into the habit in movie theaters, once the credits were rolling and the project didn't have any black people in it, I would yell out really loud, "Where are all the black people?" And a lot of times people would concur with that.
Yeah.
I've forgotten the initial question you asked me. But
I was just figuring out, how do you kind of like maneuver?
Oh, maneuver. Okay. Yeah. So I grew up with those stereotypes, and when I've also found myself in rooms where people were not African were trying to teach me a Nigerian accent. Oh. I've found myself in those rooms at least twice, and 3 times that I can remember actually. And so when I got the script, and I heard when I got the script for Bob Hatzabisola, and I heard from Chuck Lorre and our executive producers that they gave me agency to portray this character however I wanted, because in a way, I was the expert in the room. I was the only one who had that lived experience of being a Nigerian woman and then coming to America, but especially being a Nigerian woman. And so when I got that script, the most important thing for me was, how do I craft Abisola with dignity? How do I craft her so she's multi-dimensional? How do I craft her so she's not a caricature? That was the most important thing to me, because those were the things I found offensive about a lot of content that depicted us. Yeah. So I took that responsibility on. I took it on head on, and that was my focus. I wanted people to feel pride in the way that this character was depicted, because it was the first time it was ever done. It's the first time. I was the first Nigerian to play a Nigerian in primetime television, and it was my duty to make sure that character had dignity. Yeah. And that's what I went for.
And it's done in a way that people love and appreciate, because it's running 5 years in a row?
It's running 5 years, and we're now syndicated, which means it will run for many, many more years.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a huge accomplishment.
Inshallah. Thank you.
One that you should be proud of.
Thank you.
All right. So, work that you have coming up, Mufasa. Like, everybody's excited about Lion King, and you play a role.
Yes.
I'm told that you can't really tell us exactly what that is yet, but but that's still a super big deal, because that's so global, right?
It is. I grew up on the project Lion King. I remember watching it in Nigeria and crying because I was so emotionally impacted by it. And when I got the project, I was very, very happy about it, and it kept growing, and and I'm also excited about it. I'm very excited about it. I'm excited for the world to see it. It's going to be very beautiful. We have a gorgeous cast.
What can you tell us at this point? Just a little sneak into what it looks like at this point. Are you going to search your mind for all? Like, I have tons of information. I'm not sure which one I'm allowed to.
I think the only information I'm allowed to give right now is that I'm in the project.
Right.
And once I'm allowed to say more, I'd love to come back and talk more about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, this like your show, and I'm sure others, it's just that platform that gives you the leeway to showcase African and representation for folks. I mean, I know these are animals, but the story behind it is still a beautiful one and still represents like a lot of the reality of what Africa is.
Yes, and the person directing it, Barry Jenkins, Oscar-winning director. So you know that he's going to do magnificent work here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are you kind of hoping? Because these kinds of events are typically like very serious. They talk about trade, they talk about like all these investments and policies and so on. But I think one of the beautiful things about it is that it's including creatives and entertainment. What are some of the things that you hope that, well, this continues to push, but even other kind of institutions like it consider creatives when we think about progress in this area?
So what is the question you're asking me?
What you're hoping to see come out of, well, this particular thing, and then for other institutions like it to be able to do around investing in creatives. In
creatives, yeah, that's a great question, because what I realized is I'm born and raised in Nigeria.
Yeah.
The only reason I left is because I had no creative outlet, I had no creative opportunities, and I knew my calling was in the creative field. And you can, for that reason, then consider me a Nigerian export, an African export. And I've gained all this success financially, with my career, a lot of renown, pioneering, the first in another country to play Nigerian. And a lot of money has been generated. And no African country is benefiting financially from my talent.
Yeah.
So what I would like to see is for institutions like this and to consider me an asset, to consider me an ally. How do I use my platform to give back to the continent? How do I use my production company to tell the stories that we want to tell, but telling it accurately and making sure that we retain ownership of our IP? Yeah. I would like to see institutions like this figure out a way to use my platform so that we can bridge a gap. I am in a very unique position in this space that I'm in. It's like I've penetrated an avenue that very few have gone down, and I would like my entire continent behind me so we can take over the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. With love. With love, not literally.
I mean, your story is an inspirational one, and it's one that Black boys and girls, not only in Nigeria but around the world, can see and look up to. This must be something that you're kind of proud of, and you want to make sure that you do it well when you're wearing it. Yes,
yes. I think also part of the goal is just to also enjoy the process. And I always come back to love, because from that space you can do no wrong. And whenever I find myself in positions to speak, I always ask, how do I come from a place of love? How do I be of service? How do I express gratitude? And that takes whatever pressure one might feel from being in the position that I'm in, and it makes it a joyful experience.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add in closing that I haven't had a chance to bring out?
I think you've been great. You've touched everything. You've touched on everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this has been Afreximbank TV. I'm Janelle Prasad. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have Folake with us in studio. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.